quiet truth in leadership that doesn't get talked about enough. Your next level isn't built through more effort, it's built through deeper connection, not louder networking, not transactional relationships, real intentional human connection. Because when connection is aligned, everything changes. Opportunities expand, trust accelerates, and growth becomes sustainable. And today's conversation is really about redefining what it means to connect, not as a strategy, as a way of leading. Today, I'm joined by someone who lives this at a global level, Mario Brondani, known as a connector of connectors, someone who doesn't just build networks, but builds ecosystems of trust, alignment, and possibility. Mario, welcome to Catalyst Conversations.
Hi, Desi. Thank you so much for having me.
I am really, really excited to explore this with you. Not just what you do, how you think about connection as something deeper than most people realize. I want to start before the title, before Global Connector, before all of that. Take us back for a moment. What were some of the defining experiences that shaped how you see people and connection today?
So, growing up, I realized that I wasn't going to be the star student. I wasn't going to be that top achieving academic, like most of the guys in my class. I did realize though that making a bunch of friends and learning what they do would help me tremendously get ahead. And it it then became a part of, well, I know that I'm not going to know everything, but I can get to know people that know stuff. And those individuals can help me know what I want to know. And even though I had no idea at the time, I would just develop connections and relationships just to learn from people, basically. Um, whether it be friends, whether it be family friends, friends of my parents, stuff like that, just getting to know different people. Not for any particular reason, but just for the fact that, I love to learn.
Mm. Was there a specific moment when you realized that connection was your gift?
I don't think that any particular moment came about. Um, I've always been in sales, so I think through the personal development that I've done through the years, one thing always stood out to me, and it was the law of averages. That if you do something enough times, eventually it'll happen, right? Especially when it comes to sales and just doing as many cold calls as you can, eventually it'll happen. And I also realized that, brute force selling wasn't going to work out and that building relationships was going to be superior. And that's eventually how my sales strategy turned into just building relationships and helping people out. So, not one defining moment happened, but the realization of the more you have in terms of a process, a network, etc., the better it is.
Absolutely. Would you say that this came naturally to you, or was it something you consciously developed?
I believe it was more consciously developing. Absolutely.
Okay. What did you learn? Let me ask you this. What did you learn early on about people that most others miss?
One of the quotes that stood out to me when I was about 15 is a person's favorite person to talk about is themselves, and a person's most important person in their life is themselves. So realizing this, it helped me understand the key to building relationships, which was essentially just learning more about the other person. And then later, I also realized that you can learn something from everybody, no matter who they are, which also helped me shape the way that I learned about them,
Hmm.
which was a key through learning about myself as well.
Yeah. What I'm hearing and what stands out in what you're sharing is that connection for you isn't about proximity, it's about presence. And that's something I think a lot of leaders skip over. We're in rooms and we're not really with people. You've described yourself as a connector of super connectors, which is such a powerful and specific identity. Can you break that down for us? What does that actually look like in practice?
Sure. I'll give a bit of a history as well, considering we skipped out a little bit on that, and then I'll get into the answer of your question.
Of course.
My superpower was always sales, as I mentioned. It still is today. It's one of the things that relaxes me. And having done about 300 million in sales, I realized that I accidentally monetized two networks. And overall, I realized that I've been connecting with people for years, but without any system or with any strategy, just trying to be a nice person and help out, right? So about a year ago, towards the beginning of 2015, I realized that I needed to put something together. I needed to systemize everything, considering that I at least realized as one person, it's particularly difficult for me, at least, to remember every single conversation that I've had. And even writing them down in notes and such, it became um, pretty tedious overall. So I decided to put a CRM together. I decided to put everybody into one place and decided to take that on a bit more professionally about half a year ago. Coming to September, I realized that a big need that was missed out on was helping super connectors connect, facilitating relationships between them. Because there's a lot of them that help out the rest of the world, but the rest of the world rarely looks back and says, "How can I help you?"
Right.
So I would put 100 of them together, right? That was my epiphany that I had in September. And I would put 100 of them together before the end of 2025. I've met and put together about 143 now as of today. And it's brought me to understand that even super connectors being connected to about 6.3 million people, to 6.8 million people, that's the numbers that I've kind of studied, essentially brings it all down to one simple point, and it's relationships, right?
Right.
Relationships bring in what everybody's looking to do when it comes to connecting, especially at a super connecting level. It's the most important thing that you have within your organization is building that relationship with the people in your organization, and even some cases cross organization, right? Collaboration, putting communities together, etc.
Right.
I haven't seen much of it. It happens, but to a mass level, like what I'm trying to do, putting hundreds of them together, that's where I really see the benefit is, especially for the people within these groups. They get to connect far more wide and intentionally to people that they're actually looking to meet, rather than just blindly and aimlessly and hopelessly going to these networking events without any strategy, without any system, without any hope in most cases, because a lot of it is desperation, really, which is unfortunate. So I feel it is my calling to help a lot of these super connectors um, help their communities connect better as well.
Hmm. I love this conversation so much. Let me ask you this. What makes a connection high quality versus just another introduction?
I think the intention behind it and the authenticity of to why you're connecting those people. I've I usually on a one-to-one ask the super connectors that I meet, well, what makes a good connection for you? Like who are you looking for? And they'll tell me, and then they'll also tell me people connect me with other people just because we live in the same neighborhood, or because we're in the same industry, or because we're sometimes even from the same country, right? Happens often to me. Just because I'm from South Africa, people will connect me to other South Africans, even though it's not what I'm looking for, even though I love my people, right? I think what makes connecting more intentional is understanding what that person is looking for and taking the time to build a relationship with them rather than just throwing them somebody and hoping that that's the right person.
Right. Right. And when you work with people or within your network, what transformation do they experience, not just externally in their business, but internally as leaders?
with regards to.
When we're talking about connection, there is there a transformation inside of their leadership? When they begin connecting and having those deeper conversations and those deeper connections, what transformation is there for them?
I think I found that there isn't a particular thing that you become. It's more a desire to help other people that was always there. I think a lot of, at least the connectors that I've surrounded myself with, they're all very different in their own ways. But if there's been something that they have all in common is their selfless desire to help other people without expecting anything in return.
Right.
At least that's what I've tried to attract and what I've found so far. So in terms of transformation, I don't think on a connection level there's been much, but particularly because they themselves aren't transforming, but helping others to transform. So the transformation comes to the help that they're offering other people and watching them transform into, I don't know, a better version of themselves or their business. And that I think brings that deep desire of content, I would say, that level that they felt like they've helped someone for whatever reason that they're doing or choosing to do it for, because everybody has their own why.
Mm,
So I don't particularly think that there's a transformation on their level, but because I think all of them, in some regard, understood that the initial idea was to help others, and that could be the transformation itself. Let's say they decided and realized that they had to change something within themselves to start focusing on others rather than just focusing on their business and what they needed, basically.
mm. There's something really important in what you just said. You're not facilitating introductions, you're facilitating alignment. And that's a completely different level of leadership. I'd love to go deeper into this idea of authentic connection as a business advantage, because I think a lot of people say they value connection, but they're still operating transactionally. From your perspective, what does authentic connection actually require?
Part of that is definitely authenticity. I don't think there's anything wrong with making money out of the idea. I think it becomes transactional when you stop caring about the other person and you're doing it only for selfish reasons. I don't think that there's anything wrong with you helping someone out and then getting something in exchange for that. I think a lot of what we have in life is transactional per se. I think what it boils down to is the way that you do it and how you do it, which differentiates it, right? If you're, I think, invested in helping that other person succeed and you make money together, I think that's pure and I think that's great. If you're there only to get money out of that individual and not help them in any way, then I think it's more selfish.
Mm,
Um, yeah,
yeah. Well, I know, and we touched on this a little bit at the beginning of the conversation, right? Is networking and how business leaders are going into networking, but a lot of times they're not seeing any results. What would you say most people are getting wrong with networking?
I think people are looking at the short-term win rather than the long-term strategy. A lot of people want, and unfortunately, mostly because of desperation, they need a client now. And they come into these rooms expecting that these connections to these other strangers that they've had never met before and have no idea who they are will magically become or their clients or give them somebody else just for the sake of it. A lot of what I think is missed out on is even if that person is in a completely different um, category, business, whatever to you, you still can build a relationship and help them. Expect nothing in return.
Mm,
That's what true networking should be about. If you build enough of a relationship and make enough of an impact, that person will remember you. And whether it be weeks, months, years, or even decades down the line, I've heard stories of 2, 3 decades later, someone remembered an action that another individual did, reconnected with them, and they ended up doing a multi-million-dollar deal just for that memory of that positivity that that person had brought back to them years before. It becomes how much you're willing to invest in being authentic rather than being selfish. I
mm,
get that we all need to make money. I get that everybody needs to fund their business. But if you're going to put that pressure onto other people, it's not going to work out. And it becomes your problem and not theirs. So why give it to them and burn a bridge when you could have really chosen to build a relationship and that's it.
mm,
So I think that's what most people get wrong. They're doing it selfishly rather than selflessly.
I like that a lot. And I think you're absolutely hitting the nail on the head with that. I want to make this practical for leaders listening. If someone is trying to grow their business right now, what's the shift they need to make in how to approach relationships?
I would say find 3 to 5 referral partners, people that you can refer to on a consistent basis, but also then receive referrals from. And it first works on the giving basis. Be prepared to put in the work to give to them. And those people that know who your avatar is will then, in a quid pro quo fashion, give you right back what you're looking for. That's what I think would help them particularly quickly change the course of action towards the way that they're doing networking in their business.
Yeah. In Catalyst Conversations, we talk a lot about clarity that liberates. So I'm curious, how does clarity play a role in connection?
I think clarity becomes important when you're stating to the person that you're talking with what you're looking for, what they're looking for. It becomes particularly important to understand to a deep level what they want so you don't get that wrong. That's the first piece. Being able to express also what you're looking for and not on the basis of this is my client. Because even as simple as real estate, I will meet a real estate agent and they'll say, hey, I'm looking for um, buyers in the Florida area. Well, I'm based in Europe. I don't know anyone looking to buy a house in Florida, probably. Just, for argument's sake, I can't help that person, even though I know a few hundred, few thousand, few tens of thousands of people, right? Maybe I might know one if I'm lucky, but you think about the average person on a networking call, they probably won't know.
Mm,
Asking for your direct client is not going to help you out. You need to find the second degree of that, or what we call a witness, someone that knows the person that you're looking to meet with.
that's
So
great.
clarity in that second part becomes important to not only express what they're looking for, but also what you're looking for. And then the clarity of the relationship overall. What type of relationship do you want to have with that person? Um, I think it becomes particularly easy to understand. Having done it a few thousand times at this point, it's easy to know what intention that person has and being clear on not only your intention, but the other person's intention sets you up for the type of relationship that you're going to have with that person, basically.
Mm,
So I think clarity is important overall.
I agree. And then there's, structure that supports because connection without structure can feel random or unsustainable. Do you have a way, whether it's a mindset or a system that allows you to maintain and nurture relationships at scale?
Absolutely. I have both. I think mindset is definitely important, and selfless comes into all of that. This is why I decided to build a network by itself without selling anything to anybody, for the sheer side of just building the relationships without offering anything to anybody, right?
Mhm.
I know a lot of people can't do that side specifically, but you can build relationships just for the sake of helping people out. The second part of it is just putting them all within a CRM, one that I've personally created, but everyone can replicate, to be able to keep track of it all, keep track of all the conversations, write very detailed summaries, even use AI to work through the entire CRM to help you connect the people that you're meeting to the people that you've met, as an example. Both are important.
Yeah, I love that. And then I see often that the part that gets overlooked, soul that sustains. How do you keep connection human as you grow? How do you avoid it becoming performative or purely transactional?
Authenticity. Understand that everybody has their own story, their own life, their own events going on, and being genuinely interested in what they're doing and who they are. Everybody is their own book, right? And opening up the cover page rather than just reading the synopsis on the back becomes a lot more interesting, and diving into that person, all their years of experience and stories, etc. You can learn something from everybody, as I've stated earlier in our conversation. Believing that that curious part of you that you want to learn about others without receiving anything in return sets you up for building the best relationships.
Mm, I love that. What I'm sensing here is you're really modeling that connection isn't a tactic, it's a leadership identity. And when that identity is aligned, the strategy becomes obvious. I'd love to zoom out for a moment because this isn't just about business growth. This is really about impact. What do you believe becomes possible in business and in the world when people start connecting in this way?
I think anything can be possible. If you do it enough, whatever you're looking for will be found.
Yeah, I love that. You're operating at a global level, right? What patterns do you see across different spaces, industries, or communities where connection is done well? And on the flip side, what happens when it's not?
I think everything that I've mentioned thus far, organizations where people are authentic is very important, because it's very easy to see groups that are give and don't give a base, and ones that are to take and only selfish. And I think those are the differentiators between ones that succeed and really bring value to its members, and one where they're just there to suck people dry, basically.
Mm,
Other things that I think is just being within multiple pools. If you're just in the same event that only one group, um, things can get a bit stagnant and people seem to lose out on results. Um, at a stage, I was doing 15 different events a week online. I built up a pretty strong new network within a couple of weeks just by doing that. Um, People are going to too few events, I think. Um, if their intention is just to build out the network, if their intention is to specifically focus on lead generation or whatnot, then it's finding those 3 to 5 referral partners. And that again can be done at multiple events, just finding the really high quality individuals. But that then makes you rise up to the bar and become high quality yourself. So I think what people are doing wrong on that regard, and what they're doing right, is it comes down to them, really. I don't think it comes down to excuses on an organizational level as well, because then you'll gravitate naturally to the better stuff, but because you're good as well, you know.
mm-hmm. And I know I mean, we dove into it a little bit, but what does this work mean to you personally? Not the title, not the outcomes, but the deeper why behind being a connector. What does it mean to you?
I think for me, I mentioned it in the beginning. For me,
Mhm.
I know that I'll never be the smartest at something specifically. And I always refer to Henry Ford in his examples, and his life story, but particularly when he had those moments where he was ridiculed in the newspapers for the things that he would do. And it came to one interview that he invited a bunch of journalists to his office, and every question they asked, he would bring in an expert into the room to answer it. And in the end, they said, "Well, are you not good enough to answer any of these questions?" And his response was, paraphrasing, "Well, I don't need to if I can get people that are better than me to answer these questions. I just need to know how to put them all together." And I resonated a lot with that. I know that at least for me, I don't want to be the best, but I want to be surrounded by the best. And I think that's important for me, being arguably the dumbest in the room, right? Always being able to learn, always being able to grow. That's important for me. That's why I connect, just to learn and to help.
Yeah, I love that. There's a sense here that connection isn't just about growth, it's about responsibility. Who we connect with, how we connect, that shapes ecosystems, right? Um, Mario, I want to move into something a little bit more fun. I want to move us into a quick leadership lightning round, and this is just, first instinct responses. What defines a truly powerful connection?
I think what you guys can do for each other, like simultaneously, a powerful connection would be someone that allows you to connect with what you're looking for, but at the same time you help them, and it's a win-win in that way.
Hmm. One trait every great connector must develop.
Authenticity.
Hmm. So good. A belief about networking you completely disagree with.
I'm giving it some
Nothing's
thought.
coming
I don't
up,
know.
huh?
Yeah, one something that I completely disagree with about networking. Um, I don't know that you have to be selfish and go to pitch people. Let's
Yeah.
stick with that.
Yeah, I mean that's a great one. What do most leaders overlook about relationships?
What they can give.
Hmm, okay. One word that defines your leadership style.
Give up.
Hmm, so good. If someone is listening right now and they realize they've been approaching connection transactionally or maybe even unconsciously, what's one shift they can make today that would change everything for them?
As I mentioned before, meeting 3 to 5 referral partners and only helping them for a few weeks.
Okay. What stands out in this conversation for me is something simple, yet it's not easy. Connection isn't about expanding your reach, it's about deepening your alignment. When you're clear on who you are, when you build structure around how you show up, and when you lead with genuine presence, connection stops being effort. It becomes a natural extension of who you are and how you show up. And from that place, growth becomes sustainable, opportunities become aligned, and leadership becomes, I would say, human again, right? Mario, this has been such a powerful conversation. Thank you for bringing both depth and clarity to something that so many people oversimplify.
Right? It's been a pleasure. Thanks for having me on. It's been great.
Yeah, absolutely. And for everyone listening, this is your invitation to rethink how you connect, not as a strategy, but as a way of leading. And we'll see you on the next episode of Catalyst Conversations.